Good afternoon. It's once again on a Friday, and this is your host for the next 25 minutes of Hotline 21, the most interactive television show in America. Just got off the airplane, ran by the house, changed clothes, put on my tuxedo and bow tie because I've got some great events to attend tonight. And I just managed to get here. I'm going to go downtown to a fundraiser that the Primo Social Service Agency is having. They've got one of the best child welfare programs and agencies that I know anything about anywhere. And tonight is their gala, where they are raising money to help keep them in operation. And so I'm going to be delighted to be there and have a great dinner. Well, let me just say it's always good to be here with all of you. A lot of things are going on in Washington, in Chicago. Things are going on in Syria, in Turkey, in Ukraine. So there are a lot of things happening. Let's try to get to some of them right quick. And of course, you can call and share your views about them. It looks as though the president's people have sort of, whether they intended to or not, it looks like they've basically said that they were negotiating with Ukraine, and it's all right to negotiate, but what are you negotiating for? If you're negotiating in a way that says you're trying to deal with the national interest as opposed to any kind of personal interest, that's two different things. I just throw that out there and leave it. But I am concerned when we make a move and cut a little deal, big deal, anytime you are affecting the lives of people, and you open the door for Turkey to invade a neighboring country and overrun the people there or segments of the people there. And those people have been working with and on the side of the United States, especially in the fight against ISIS. I don't know how you do that. That's kind of like, I remember the song Frankie and Johnny. So Frankie and Johnny were sweethearts. That's the way the story goes. Frankie bought everything for Johnny, including his Cadillac and his Ivy League clothes. He was her man, all right. But he was doing her wrong. Friends called Frankie and said, Frankie, I ain't gonna tell you no lie. I saw your man down there in the bar room with a chick named Nellie Bly. He was your man, but he was doing you wrong. Well, I suspect the Kurds might be saying the same thing about the United States. I mean, how do you abandon your friends in a situation and leave them exposed? And then, of course, we've been saddened by the death of my neighbor and my good friend, Elijah Cummings, whose office is across the hall from mine. And I always stood behind Elijah whenever the Congressional Black Caucus lined up for events and activities, because we lined it up in order of seniority. And I was the next person behind Elijah, because I went to Congress after he did. and his name was Cummings, C. My name was Davis, D. And so I always knew where to line up. Whenever we had an event, all I had to do was find Elijah and get behind him. But that's not why I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him because he was one of the most principled persons I've ever known in politics. He was intelligent, keenly aware of whatever was going on. He was a workhorse, not a show horse, and he always represented positions that were in the best interests of his constituents, in the best interests of his neighborhood, his community. He lived in the inner city of Baltimore, in the heart of the people who represented him. He didn't live up on a hill, out away from the people. And I've always had a tremendous amount of appreciation for him about that. And you could say he's the kind of guy who really represented the people. They're going to miss him. We're going to miss him. And America has lost a giant. So such was the life and such is the legacy of the Honorable Elijah Cummings. I think we got a caller on the line. I'll go right to the caller. Caller, are you there?
Good evening, Dr. Davis, U.S. Representative, 7th District. Like you was mentioned, there's only one thing you left out. He was a great statesman, and he was a very civil person, and he was willing to reach across the aisle to Republican people as well. But I want to get straight to my point. I was listening to one of Trump's people in the cabinet. No, it may not be a cabinet. His chief of staff, and I just heard this real briefly. He's talking about there was pro quo and all that, and said like this part of the business and all that, something to that fact. Get over it. Now, if these other Republicans don't understand, now if I'm wrong about something, stop me if I'm wrong. It's supposed to be country before party. And we look at some of the things that, I'm not even going to call him the president. And the things that he's doing is not quite right. Even when you're the president, you're supposed to avoid even a mere appearance of things looking wrong. Now, he's going to have this summit, what do you call it, the world, I can't think of the summit offhand, at one of his resorts. He's making money left to right in terms of being the presidency. And he tells people that he's not going to give up his, show his tax returns. So he don't want people to see how he's making money off the presidency or his family off the presidency. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And people are still going to go along with him. And then I'm going to be real brief. We got, once again, stop if I'm wrong. This man is out for the rich people. When you got Amazon and we got Walmart, didn't pay no federal taxes, but let you, the average person, want to file bankruptcy. Guess what? You can't get rid of your student loans. You can't get away from owing the government taxes. Guess what? Look at how many look at how many times this man has filed bankruptcy. What happened to Trump Airlines, Trump Casino? But he getting away for a lot. And I just wonder, when is enough for America going to stop and this nightmare going to be over? I know I said a lot.
Well, people knew all of that before he got elected, and they still voted enough for him to get elected. I mean, he didn't win the most votes, but the way our system is set up, he won the votes where he needed to win them in order to get the most electoral votes.
May I make one last point?
Go ahead.
Now, if I'm wrong, stop me dead in my tracks, okay? Now, you got white women voted for him because they would deal with sexism, but they ain't going to give up their white right. They were the largest group that voted for him. And then when you look at this Me Too movement, now, a lot of things they do is good, all right? I have no problem. But you need to be right across the board. Now, you don't see the Me Too movement talking about Donald Trump. 21 women accused him of rape. And he talking about he want to meet the whistleblower. Before he meet the whistleblower, how about meet those 21 women that say he raped them? I'll leave it at that. Take care.
All right. Well, you said it. I think we got another caller on the line, so we'll go right to the phone. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I just want to say, I'm missing our congressman too, because he was such a dynamic person. And when he talked about how he had problems speaking, and I had a speech problem. And Lenora Cartwright, who was my boss, she told me, said,
Commissioner of the Department of Human
yes, she
Services.
says, all you have to do is just be yourself and make eye contact. And that's what he done. And we will sorely miss him. I don't want to talk about Donald Trump because there's other things that we could be talking about. Working with our young people to get them to understand, although the schools may be on a strike, but we still honor and love them and want them to get a decent education. But I would love to say, if they get what they want, we need those teachers to have better dress codes when they want to be in front of our students, because they are some of the worst dressers. And it begins with us. And I just salute you, Congressman, and keep up that great work that you're doing.
Well, thank you. I think I taught for 6 years in the Chicago Public Schools, and I don't think I ever went to work without a shirt and tie. I'm saying I don't ever remember going to work without having on, a shirt and tie, or a suit and tie, or a sport jacket and tie. I don't ever remember going into the classroom without that. And so I think we have to teach our children that they live in two worlds, and that is the world of casual life and then the world of professionalism. And you do certain things. For example, we cannot go on the floor of the House of Representatives unless we have on a jacket and tie. And I don't have a problem with professionals having certain kinds of professional codes. And if that's what you're saying you think teachers ought to do, I can certainly agree. Thank you so much, and we'll move right along. I thought we had another call, but I'm not sure. But if we do, we'll get them in. If we don't, we'll keep on moving. Well, we know that the strike is on, and I have a tremendous amount of empathy for the teachers union and for the fact that they are seeking a contract. I also have a great deal of empathy for the mayor and the members of the Chicago City Council and the Board of Education, because when you make a contract, you also got to be able to pay for it. And I think part of what's holding up negotiations is trying to figure out how to pay for the demands that the union has laid on the table, are laid on the mayor. The committee that I serve on in the House of Representatives is called the Ways and Means Committee. And the primary responsibility of that committee is to figure out how to pay for things. And I tell you, we get in some real situations where there are things that we agree with, that we want to do, things that we'd love to do, and somebody will disagree about how to pay for it, and that sometimes puts us in a bind. But I'm hoping that, the union and the mayor's office and the negotiators for the board will spend this weekend in negotiation, and they'll get to the table so that maybe by Monday morning, I'd love to see them announce sometime Sunday at least that they had found a solution or they had found common ground to this issue. Because I think there's nothing more important than trying to provide all of the education that we can and all of the wraparound services that our young people need. And so I'm just hoping and praying that the negotiators will be able to come up with a solution before Monday so that our children can be back in school as soon as possible. We got another caller on the line, so we'll go right to the phone. Caller, are you there?
Hello, Congressman. I have a question for you about how is it they can say, the mayor has said she put a $400,000 into the budget to cover for these librarians, nurses, and social workers. But how many jobs does that represent? With $400,000, that could take 4 jobs, maybe 5 jobs, for 600 schools. Are you kidding me?
No, 400,000, you don't mean 400 million? I mean, 400,000 won't go very far, not in terms of the number of schools, the number of children that we have in Chicago. And I'm not defending either side, and I'm not saying what they must have and all of that. But I am saying that I guarantee you when a solution is reached and the pay-fors are put on the table, there are a lot of ways you can generate money. I mean, you can tax things that are not already being taxed. You can reach other sources and get money from that. You can raise taxes that already exist, and I'm sure nobody want to do that. So, but they got to do something. I'm saying you can't just maintain the status quo. And that's what you're really elected to do, is to make these hard decisions and then take the consequences from the people. If they like it, they'll say right on. If they don't like it, they'll beat you up real bad. Caller, are you there? Oh, I thought I saw another caller. But that's what they've got to do. I mean, and so people who think that just being elected is a lot of fun and a lot of status. It's a lot of fun when things are going right, but when things are going wrong, I never will forget something that Abraham Lincoln said. A reporter supposedly was saying to Abraham Lincoln, say, you know, Mr. President, how do you make it with all these things that are going wrong for you? And Abraham Lincoln said, I tell you what, I just do the best that I can. And if the end comes out all right, people will say what a great person I am. But if the end comes out wrong, then a legion of angels swearing that I was right won't make a bit of difference. And so I think this situation with the strike, and we've got some strikes going on in the community. The nurses over at Mount Sinai Hospital, they've been having some labor disagreements and problems. The workers at the Ulich Children's Home Program, social service agency over in the North Lawndale community, 3600 West Fillmore, they've been at an impasse with the management there. And so the workers are, upset and up in arms and feel that management is not being as sensitive to their needs. And of course, when you're at the top, you got to figure out a way to meet the needs of the entity. You got to figure out where do you get the money from. Sometimes you have to rearrange things. Sometimes you have to rob Peter to pay Paul. Sometimes you have to try and find additional sources of revenue. And so you have to do all of these things. But if you do the best that you can and make the most rational, most logical, most beneficial decisions, then after you've done all that you can, all that you can do is stand. And so if you stand, then the end oftentimes will come out all right. So I'm going to put all of these entities on what I call my prayer list. And I'm going to pray that they'll be able to reach agreement, that they'll be able to find solutions to these problems that they're faced with. And I'm going to, as I get ready to wrap up and sign off, I'm going to say my last words, and I'll probably be saying some words about Elijah for a long time. And I was thinking that maybe the poet had Elijah in mind when he talked about there being different kind of souls in our world, and being pioneer souls and souls who have certain feelings about things. Elijah was the kind of guy who always expressed his position. But the poet said it kind of like this when he said, let me live in the house by the side of the road while the race of men go by. Men who are good, men who are bad, wise, foolish, but then so am I. So why would I sit in the scorner's seat or hurl the cynic's ban? Just let me live in my house by the side of the road and be a friend to man. Elijah Cummings was that kind of man. And so we send well wishes to his wife, his children, the members of his family. And I think he was the epitome of suggesting that all of us can become and can be whatever we set out to be if we really put our mind to it. He delighted in telling the story about his teacher who said he'd never be much of anything. And so he graduated from college, Phi Beta Kappa. And folks who don't know what that is, that means that's the highest honor that you can get. And he was indeed an honorable man. Well, it's time to go. I'm going to try to have as much fun tonight as I possibly can. I will not be drinking any alcohol, even though I'm going to these great dinners and all of that. I'm going to eat whatever is good for me, if I can do that, and be disciplined. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.